I don't care what anybody says. You're never going to stop learning. So any of these guys that pat themselves on the back that know everything, they're just foolish because it's always changing.
You want to feel the difference. And when that rod tip is too stiff, that very subtle, different pull is indiscernible from those little taps.
People will go up, they don't see bass popping, they make a couple casts, they leave. But they don't take the time to try and figure out what's going on under the surface.
We'll sit there, do 5 of those drifts and not catch one fish and just go. They'll just keep going to the next spot.
Right.
Not me, I'm staying there.
You have that moment with all sorts of species of fish where you realize you are not the one that's got the upper hand in the fight, and I realized that very quickly. That fish, it took off, it dug my rod tip right into the water.
Hello and welcome to the Salt Strong live stream and podcast. I'm your host, Rich Natoli. I am one of the Salt Strong fishing coaches serving the Mid-Atlantic and Northeast, and I am joined, as always, by the lovely and talented owner of Captain Hank's Tackle, Ed Gobo. Ed, how you doing?
Doing good, Rich. Doing good. How are you?
Pretty good. I'm really excited to have George Bucci coming back on tonight. And those of you that followed the show before we made it on to Salt Strong will be familiar with George. He is just really well known for, stalking the beaches and just hammering the surf and pulling in some beautiful fish up and down the New Jersey coast, up into New York. And he was on, September, I think. Mm-hmm. And we were talking about striped bass fishing in the surf. And we're at the point now where it's getting close to the end. I'm still seeing fish being caught when the weather windows allow, and thought it would be a great time to have George come back on and talk a little bit about how his season has been going. We had a review of the season with Kristen last week on the TOG, and we have George. He's going to come on and he's going to talk about the striped bass. But as I'm seeing in the chat from James Flynn, George is full of nuggets when talking. Yeah, pay attention because
listen up.
He's one of those guys where just listen and he'll let things go. And if you think about it, you'll realize he just dropped something for you that's really going to help you out when you're out on the water. So, I've been looking forward to this one. How about you, Ed?
Yeah, this is going to be a great show. I mean, a lot has happened between the last time we talked to George and now. I've seen, we've had one of the craziest striper runs I've seen in years. I know George has been on them. And then what was it, last Wednesday? George and I kind of crossed paths out in the ocean, not knowing until afterwards, but
right.
So it's pretty cool.
Yeah. It's funny because the last time that we talked to George, we didn't know if it was going to be a good season or not. And I've seen words from captains who don't like to talk things up too much. And they've said, I hate to use the word, but epic really does fit right now. And that's what it's been. So with that said, let's bring on to the stream right now, George Bucci. George, welcome back to the show. How you doing?
Good. How you doing, Rich? How you doing, Ed?
Good, man. Good.
I'm doing great. This is, I've been on the water.
I got the smile. It's been smile worthy. Yeah.
The cat that ate the mouse.
I've been on the water a few times. Ed's been on the water a few times, but we haven't, I haven't been on, I think, nearly as much. Well, I know not nearly as much as you, because I've seen your pictures and I've been trying to live vicariously through you with some of them. So why don't you just give the breakdown? How's the surf? Let's start with the surf fishing striped bass. How's that been going for you?
Well, last time I was on, we talked about, things were just starting to happen. And I think it was a week after that, we had our first push of big fish came through. And I think they were Chesapeake Bay fish, and they fly through. And I got in on some of that, and there was some big fish. We had fish. I think we had 3 50-inch fish out of 20-something fish I caught. I was in a boat off Island Beach State Park. I mean, they came flying through. They were gone a couple days later. But then we started to get that peanut bunker thing, and we had discussed those west winds. You get those west winds, and and we got a lot of west wind in October and November. It was steady
for what, a week?
There was at one point it was too much west wind. It was like they can't eat like that every day, and they ate. They went crazy. But I was fortunate enough to get it like at the beginning of it when it started all the way up in Sandy Hook, and be, and I hear epic. Epic is it's the term you got to use, because when I'm standing on the beach and I have hundreds of yards of space around me, maybe a couple of guys, and there's just hundreds of bass in the 30 to 40 inch range. I could have tackled them.
Yeah.
I could have been like a bear, just grab them. They were that close, and I was basically, you're hand feeding them metal lip swimmers. You're just like pitching it, and there's 5 of them fighting for it. I mean, they're coming over. If you've been up north, you'll know when you're standing on the beach, it goes, and then there's a lip, right? And the wave comes up, and it hits the lip, and the water will just come running up the beach. These fish were, I was running the plug out of the waves and over the lip, and the fish were coming up out of the water.
Wow.
And onto the lip, and I mean, I did a video. My buddy that was up there with me, he videoed it, and you can actually see the fish come up over the lip and hit the plug in water that's no more than this deep, and it's a 35-inch fish. So it was like that for hours. I don't know how many times in the last 2 months I've walked away from eating fish just because I couldn't take anymore.
Right, man, that's crazy. So how were your arms afterwards?
Done, shot. Absolutely.
Yeah.
I had calluses build up on both my hands.
Yeah.
Just from grabbing fish. I know that the day I die, the coroner's he's gonna be like, we don't know what this is. What all this calluses is. He's a hard worker.
That's awesome. I had a day where I went out with Frank Mahalik, and we went out on the fishmonger, and it was for blackfish, but it was a tough bite. There was a bite, and we were getting keepers and everything, but then the bass just started rolling through. So he pulled up those 2 anchors so fast, and we got to, he ran us up on the schools, didn't run them over, but ran us right up to him. And it was so fast that the mates were literally throwing rods to people just like, I don't care if it's yours, start throwing. And George, I'm not even kidding. Now, I like to think that I'm in pretty good, quote unquote, fishing shape, right? I do a lot of fishing throughout the year. I got to the point where I caught so many fish on this light tackle that
your arms are trembling.
Yeah, they were trembling, but we switched back to tog for a break, right? And I'm standing there holding the rod, and I couldn't release my hand. My right hand was stuck on it.
Locked up.
It was totally locked up. So I had to put the rod in the holder, and I must have looked like an idiot because my hand is stuck on it. And I had to peel my fingers off and take a break. I was pretending I was looking for something in my bag because I didn't want to tell anyone.
Yeah, if I showed you my left pinky from holding the rod, I don't know if you can see it, but look, see this lump right here?
Yeah.
That's kind of where I hold a lot of times the reel goes right here. And you can see it's going to be, look at the lump right there.
Oh, look at that.
Yeah,
that's a badge of honor.
That's going to hurt later when I get a little older.
Oh yeah, that's going to hurt, but you're still going to be proud of it.
Yeah.
You're going to do what I do. You switch between, you hold the reel between that finger, and then you switch, keep moving up. I
try, but once you learn how to hold a rod and you're comfortable that way, I'm never going to switch. It's always going to be that way. But that locks up on me. I get trigger finger right there from that.
Yeah. Yeah. And my whole hand did it. And like I said, I didn't want to tell anyone on the boat, but man, I told my wife when I got in the car, I'm like, my hand locked up. It was so awesome. So let's,
the day we were out at Toggin, I don't know if you saw, but there was a couple of schools of striper went by, and
no, I didn't.
It was very difficult for me since I had a rod close by with a spook on it. And I knew we were past 3 miles, and I'm looking at them, and I said to my buddy, I can't help myself. I'm going to throw. And he said, look over your right shoulder. And I looked over, and I don't know if you noticed, but Fish and Wildlife also happened to be rolling through at the same time. And I looked over and I go, yeah, that would be a bad idea. So
yeah, I think God was telling you right there. God was telling you, no. Yeah. That's why your buddy's on the boat with you. Be honest.
Yeah, and after that, I was done. I was shot. I couldn't tog. I was looking over my shoulder, looking inshore, trying to see birds, and I missed a lot of tog that day. My buddy, he carried us that day, and because I was just like, I wasn't into it. I was like, I want to go catch bass. But
Ed, how did you do that day?
On the tog was a good day. I mean, it was picky. The bite wasn't like a drop and reel.
Yeah,
we had to work for them, but. We started at the GE reef, ran up to the AC reef. I got 3 real nice keepers like right off the bat, and then that died. So then we went back to GE, and we finished out the day there. I think we ended up with 9 between the 2 of us.
Yeah, we had 8, and I had 3 of them. I wasn't doing good. Wasn't my day.
I caught my limit that day.
Yeah.
So Ed was carrying the other boat.
Mm-hmm.
Your buddy was carrying your boat.
Oh yeah, he was carrying me. I even stopped for a while. I sat down and just relaxed and kept scanning the horizon.
It was such a nice day, man.
It was beautiful. Yeah,
I couldn't ask for a better day.
No.
All right, so let's get back on these Sandy Hook fish. So you starting off the season up in Sandy Hook. You got them in the wash.
I ran up to Sandy Hook often, and that's another. I just in case she hears me, I spent a lot of money in gas. A lot of money in gas. Like
So
I've
you have
been
to side-
saving up. I've been saving up for a boat, and I'm back to square one because I burned a lot of gas.
Yeah.
A lot of driving up by myself, a lot of sharing rides, a lot of going. Like I did an all-nighter. Me and a buddy he's my age, 55. It's been a while since I did an all-night. Like left at 4:30 in the afternoon and got home at 7 o'clock the next morning. And my wife was like, "What are you doing?" You know.
Yeah.
And I got 1 fish that night, and my buddy had 2. So it was a grind. And then it was just so on and off and on and off. But if you kind of watch the weather and you kind of knew when it was coming, like when you saw that wind was going to go west for 3 days, you knew that you needed to be there. Maybe it went offshore like in the middle of the day. So that whole rest of the day, it wasn't quite going to go. It would start to, but you knew the next day it was going to pop, and it did. And then you'd see that pattern change, and maybe you get an east wind, and then on that east wind, it would, things had died down at the end of that west, and then it exploded again on that east, and guys were throwing bucktails and rubber shads and things of that nature because you couldn't quite swim. Most of the bite was like I basically threw this. This is a couch FJJ, and you can see the line tie, how it's bent down.
Yeah,
that'll make it swim up higher in the water column. You don't mess with these lips. You mess with the line tie. You bend it down, it'll want to swim up. You bend it up, it'll want to swim down. So that's how you adjust your metal lips. And this is the bunker. We're about this size. This is my son's computer. About this size. The bunker where you had anything from adults to peanuts. Right. So, but you saw a lot of people throwing stuff kind of like this, which is a little bit of a bigger profile. But this will swim across the surface. But yeah, you mess with those. You don't. I see people want to bend the lips, and you're ruining the plug.
Right.
I need a banner, Rich, that goes across the bottom of the screen when George drops a nugget.
Yeah, we'll just keep putting James's thing up there. Just keep
I brought some plugs in. A lot of guys were throwing. I saw the Dannies were really popular. This is a couch stand. This has never seen water and probably never will.
Right.
It's before he stamped his lips, but this is the Danny style. This will swim across the surface, and that's what most of the people were doing. They were crawling those Dannies across the surface. And it was getting it done. When I was throwing that jointed, I had trouble getting it to come up high enough. So, I tweaked it, got it to run a little higher. And then I was kind of just really crawling it slow and then pausing. And I'd give it a pump. And it seemed like that's when, if there were fish around, they were hammering it.
Right. On the pause. On
the pause with a pump. And then it would pause and then they would hit it,
Yeah.
But you gotta play around with that. Sometimes, and there was one day on the beach where it was a bluebird sky day, and I was doing my usual slow thing, and I had a gentleman next to me who was reeling, 3 times. He was probably getting 3 casts into my one, and he was hitting fish, and I wasn't. So I looked over, and I kind of was like, all right, he's cranking it quick. So I started to mimic him, and sure enough, that's what they wanted that day.
Yeah.
But it was smaller profile things. It was mag darters, SP minnows, a lot of the small plastics that you could run a little quicker. And thank God I saw that.
Let's go back to the couch lures. Right?
Yes.
So there was a question in there. Are those lures homemade? Do you want to kind of give the story behind those?
Yes. Bill Couch is CCW, which, Bill passed away a couple years ago, but a lot of his stuff is still around. I still have a lot of it. I have trouble throwing a lot of it because he was a good friend of mine, but I still have a few that I will throw. Like here, this is his jetty swimmer, and you can see this one's kind of the line tie. The line tie on this one, the line tie on this is kind of up a little bit. I guess the last time I used this, which I remember when I used this up at the Cape Cod Canal, I was swimming this a little deeper. So I wanted it to swim a little deeper, so I bent that up a little bit, got it to swim the way, where I wanted to, and I caught fish on it that day. And he made everything even up to, this is his pikey, and I've gotten this to run 20 foot. And I'll use this out of the boat in like Raritan Bay, or even out front if I'm out front and I know that there's fish around. I think it's about 4 or 5 ounces. It's big, it's heavy. It takes a lot of rod to throw it. Let's see if I can bring it back a little for you. There we go.
But that's an adult bunker profile.
Yes, yeah.
And they're all wood, correct?
Yeah, they're made of most of his stuff is white cedar, and he made little like this would have been perfect for some of the bays. This was his Danny Boy, which is a small Danny. It's just a little miniature Danny, and I have it tweaked. I can see that I must have been running it. I was probably throwing this around a bridge, so I have it set to run a little deeper. But this would have been perfect if I had remembered that I had this until just 10 minutes ago. And then I was like, oh my God, I forgot I had that.
Man, those are some nice lures. Now most people aren't going to have a couch lure. So what things would you put in place of those?
Well, there's tons of great builders out there right now. I'll name a couple. Like Scabelli's. Scabelli's makes great stuff. Yeah. He makes great stuff. He makes jointed plugs. He makes metal lip swimmers. He also makes these. What the heck is a
darters? I think.
No, it's not a darter. It's a not a twitch bait. This is a twitch. The same thing. This is a twitch bait.
Glide bait.
Yes, this is a glide bait. Yeah, this is a glider. I caught a lot of fish on this last year during the peanut run, but I didn't have room in my bag this year. There was certain things I wanted to throw. I wanted to throw a lot of more metal lips. Also, let me see here. Well, yeah, and I caught a ton of fish on pencils this year.
Yeah.
This mackerel, the pattern didn't matter. The white belly, I think, mattered more than anything. But this is a left hook Raptor. I think this goes at about 3 ounces. So I could, with my 9-foot rod, and a west wind, which we had a lot of west wind, I was probably throwing that 100 yards. You know, it was reaching the other side of the barn quite often. It was getting just to where I needed it. The problem is when you hook up at 100 yards with a slow Van Stahl, it takes a long time to get it in.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, I can't believe I just hooked up out there. And then you get it, and then you throw again. And go, I hope they hit a little closer. Nope. They're at the end of the cast.
You're praying for the followers.
Yeah.
Oh, that's great.
And I got a few on some of the stuff I made. Like I made this thing's beat up, but this is one that I made. And I had fish on this year in the Raritan Bay too. I think it was right after I did the first podcast with you guys. I went up to the Raritan and we did well. And this was the go-to one. My buddy grabbed it out of my bag and then wouldn't give it back to me until the end of the day.
That's a great color though. That gold bronze.
It's one of my favorite. Yeah, that's one of my favorites.
Yeah, I think it's an underutilized color quite often.
I try to put it in a lot of stuff. Yeah, a lot of stuff that I make. I'm supposed to give Ed some plugs that I spun, but I haven't stopped fishing.
Say it's been a busy fall. I was expecting it to be a little quieter. So
yeah. I'm ready to shut it down.
It's still going though, guys.
It's I was talking to my buddy today, and I said it's over. It's over. I'm trying to talk myself. I said it's over, and he goes, it's not over. This is going well into January. He said as soon as things settle down, I'm pretty sure that there are some sand eels around now. So now you're going to get into your sand. The water temperatures are still in the 50s.
Yeah.
So there's going to be fish on the beaches, especially up there. And even probably down here, there was a couple days I snuck out before it got completely out of control with the waves. And there was fish on the other side of the bars down here in South Jersey. And I couldn't quite get to reach them because the surf was still up. Couldn't get on the jetty I was near, but they're there. They're there.
Well, and the northwest and west winds continue.
Yeah.
At least the next few days, it's going northwest. So it's not the best, but it's still going to help.
Mm-hmm.
Especially, my theory is the northwest winds are going to help once you get down to the lower part around Atlantic City, even LBI, where you take that curve in, around Barnegat Inlet. And once you get that, the northwest winds might draw them in a little bit better than the straight west winds will.
I had one day where when I don't feel like driving 100 miles, I'll just shoot close. And I did have a day where I went to the beach and the sun came up, and suddenly peanut bunker came washing in right through, and there was fish on them. There was not a lot, 2 or 3 fish. And then they went away, and a guy showed up, jeans and work boots and a 6-foot ugly stick. And I was on the phone, and I saw another thing, a peanut bunker, come in, and I pointed. I said, "Yo, throw right over there." He had a rubber shad on, and he threw it. And first cast, his little tiny freshwater rod folded in half, and he got it in. It was a 32-inch bass, and it went right into a hefty bag, and he left. He didn't even take another cast. And I was like, perfect. I got it again to myself.
Yeah, you don't have to worry about that undersized rod crossing you.
Yeah. But like
dinner.
15 minutes later, 2 other guys came rolling up dressed the same way, and they said, "Our buddy just got a 32-incher here." I said, "Yeah, I know." So
the fish left.
You get rid of one and you create 2 more.
So that kind of plays into this question that Ivan put up, if you want to look at that. He says, after how many casts when fishing a new spot do you know when to call it?
Well, that depends. It depends what I'm seeing. Like if I see that there's bait right in front of me, I'll sit there for a long time and wait for fish to find them. That happened quite a bit this year, where you had a school of peanut bunker that was trapped maybe between a couple bars or right in front of you, and I'll just sit there and work them. And they may slowly be moving down the beach, and maybe I'll move with them and wait, because a lot of times, either while the tide's filling in or the tide's dropping, those fish will push over the bar. And that happened quite a bit this year, where like you expect at first light that all of a sudden it's just going to be like, bang, these blitzes are going to happen. And if you didn't, if you weren't prepared to stick it out for an hour or two, you may have left. And then all of a sudden it lit up at like weird time. It was 9 o'clock, 10 o'clock where it turned on. And if I had given up early, I got to the beach at 2, 3 o'clock in the morning, fished the dark into sunup. And then I was like, wow, I guess it's not going to happen. And then all of a sudden you look down the beach and you just see a couple of birds. You walk down there to see what's going on. And sure enough, it's peanuts and maybe a couple fish. And then those couple fish turn into a couple dozen fish. And then those couple dozen fish turned into a couple hundred fish. It literally was like, bang, it would turn on.
And they've been moving slow. Like you mentioned, they've been moving. I mean, out on the boats.
I don't even think that they were like going south. I think that for a long time, probably for a good month, they were working south. Maybe a lot of them kept going, but I think they were going back and forth, because quite often I saw them moving north. And I was moving north with them, working up the beach north. And they would, all of a sudden they'd be in Seabright. And then next thing you know, they're 2 days later, it's south of that. Then it's back in Sandy Hook again and Seagirt,
Right.
And using the surf cams. And I know some of the guys are like, oh, they're anti-surf cam, but it makes it so easy. I just, I'm looking at the one day, what was it? Before this blow, I was sitting home, I guess it was last Sunday, and I was looking at the surf cam, and it was noon. I just got done doing some leaves. My wife said, I got some things to do. And she said, are you going to watch football? And I said, yeah, I'm going to watch football. And I pulled up the Lavalette camera and I went, now I'm going to go fishing. And she said, okay. And I went up to Lavalette, and then it wasn't much going on. And I jumped over to Brick, and I was at Brick, got a couple fish, and I looked north. And it was probably a mile or a mile and a half away that there was just this amazing bird play. And at 55 years old, I was like, sure, why not? I guess I'll walk that mile and a half down the beach, because I know there's no access down there. And I walked, and I probably got halfway there and was just encountered like blitzing fish with no birds on them, and sat there by myself, for a long time before a couple other younger guys came down, and we laughed and caught fish till dark. It was just amazing.
It's been crazy. There have been so many fish and so many blitzes that I don't think there are enough birds to keep up with them. I mean, it is. I mean, you'll see miles of fish, blitzing on peanuts of all things, and not one bird, not
Well,
one bird.
there was peanuts, and the peanuts would go through, and then all of a sudden there'd be adult bunker, and I had adult bunker last Sunday, literally beaching themselves.
Yeah,
You know, these were full size. You know, these were adult bunker, and then they would go through, and then peanuts would come through. So you were getting a full mix, and there were times prior to that where there was butterfish washed up all over the beach. So it was just a mix of all kinds of different bait that was rolling down the beach.
Butterfish.
Yeah.
Were you looking for the tuna?
There was tuna all over the place.
Man. All right, let's show this one right here. Here's some good news from Andrew Sokol. New body of fish have moved into the back of Raritan Bay.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah. I don't think everybody else knows.
I heard today.
Yeah, the New York, Northern Jersey guys, or guys like you or me that'll travel. Ed, we know you're staying and waiting.
It needs to stop. It needs to end. These fish need to go away.
It's
going to
crazy.
get brutally cold next week, so I don't know how that's going to affect anything. I mean, but we still have these water temperatures that are warm. So, and it's happened in years past where in January you get these herring runs on the beach, and there's still bass. Mid-January I was catching fish in Ortley one year, Lavalette Ortley.
Is that about 3 years ago?
Because
I was catching herring and striped bass in January, right up there in Lavalette.
Yeah, it was probably right around then.
I was surprised. It's the first herring I ever caught. I was like, what the heck is this thing? And I looked at it, and I'm like, that's a herring.
Mm-hmm.
Guy next to me goes, it's a herring, stupid. I was like, okay.
Thanks, buddy.
Thanks, man. I appreciate it.
All right, so I need to interrupt with this. James, I am good for more than 5 miles. Thank you.
Yeah.
I fished down south. No, I fished down south with you quite a bit this summer.
True. That is true. He'll do 50 miles.
About 50.
Yeah. Meanwhile, I'll go down to the Virginia Beach if I need to.
That Sandy Hook run, really, I probably did it. I don't know how many times, but it takes me about an hour and 45 to get there, and an hour and 45 back. So that's brutal when you go up there and you timed it wrong, or it's just not what you think it was going to be. That makes for a long drive back.
Well, and even more because it's surf fishing. Like tomorrow I'm heading down to Atlantic City for tog fishing, but I'm going to be on a boat. Mm-hmm. So it's so much easier. What's that?
Couldn't wait till tomorrow.
It's first fishable day in how long?
Yeah, it may be the only really good fishable day.
Yeah.
So
Wednesday's gonna be good.
It was all luck. Because it was all small craft warnings, and we booked it anyway, thinking that this would be the one day that might clear out. And it does look like, to Ed's point, that it's going to be fishable in New Jersey over the next 2 to maybe even 3 days.
I have one Saturday. I don't think it's going to happen. Yeah.
No, Saturday's looking bad, I think.
Yeah.
That's a shame. That's a shame. So, all right. So your trend now is you're using the metal lips for the most part.
That was kind of, I'll rotate through my bag. I try to keep it light on my bag, but I always end up overpacking. So anytime you try to take something out, it's like a barrel of monkeys. Everything comes all out together. I'll have 3 plugs, and usually it's right when a blitz is going on. So I'm scrambling to try to, get the hooks apart and everything. But yeah, usually it's a couple. I'll have a couple metal lips, a couple, the simple things, mag darter, SP, a couple of the pencil poppers, a couple gliders, maybe the twitch bait, and I'll usually rotate. And sometimes, things will work better than others. Like it just seemed like this little thing worked the best for me, the little tail, because I can crawl this and still get great action out of this little tail. I've had to put a new. You can see there's nothing left to that, and that was the second one. This was the prototype when he first made these. He gave me this years ago, and it's amazingly, of all the plugs I lose, and I lose a lot of plugs. I lose everything I own. I can't believe I haven't lost this yet.
Well, that one seems to have a great profile and size for both peanut and adult bunker. You're on the lower side of the adult, but you have that really thick profile.
He made that for freshwater too, and he gave it to me to test, and I took it up to the Raritan Bay one night and absolutely crushed fish on it, and started sending them pictures. And he said, "I guess I'm going to have to make them now." And so he started to mass produce. I have one other in this color, a dark one, and I have a custom color one that he made for our club that he only made like 20 of them of. That won't come out of the package.
Probably make copies of that so you have them.
Yeah, you throw it on the lathe and hit it with the duplicator. You can probably make them, but he started to change them. Like Bill was funny. Like he made it, and then I was like, yeah, you got to make them. He started mass producing them, and he started putting. This was a lefty lip on here, and he started putting Danny lips on them, which is a little bit of a bigger lip. I don't know if I have one with a Danny lip. I think this is that's a little bit of a different lip, right? Than this one, and you can see it. And the lip it'll completely change the swim. And I took the new one that I got off when I tried to swim it, and it didn't. I said, "What are you doing?" I said, "You change. It's not the same. It doesn't swim the same." And he said, "Oh, I just threw a Danny lip on it instead." I said, "You can't do that. You can't do that to me because it doesn't do the same thing." So he went back to the lefty lips.
And are you using in your bag at all any soft plastics?
I always have to bring. I'll bring one of these will be in my bag, maybe one bucktail. And it's a lot easier catching fish on these to just unhook them. Yes. But for me, it's not even about like how many fish I can catch. It's about what I can catch them on. And I now that Bill's gone, I love catching stuff on his plugs, and I love catching stuff on my own stuff. And then every once in a while, I'll throw some other things. John Scabelli, he makes great stuff. It catches fish, but you can only carry so many things in your bag, so you rotate, everybody gets, it's like an equal opportunity bag. Every once in a while, I'll mix it up and throw a couple of other things in there. Back Bay, Bobby Reed makes great stuff. He's making some real nice jointed plugs, I see. And from up north, you got Derek from Lights Out, and he supplies a lot of places down here. He makes real nice stuff too. But if you go into a lot of the shops up north, will have a lot more of that custom stuff. Yes. Than you.
Yeah, it seems like that's the market. Once you get towards the northern New Jersey, New York market, it's a lot of custom stuff.
Yeah, and you go online, there's Facebook pages where guys have, and they'll sell their stuff. I think Tight Lines in Summers Point carries. I think Dean Gibbs makes some stuff. He makes gliders, and he makes a couple other. He makes like a nice little like metal lip, but it's more of a like bomber style metal lip, like long thin profile, but they're nice and they swim well. And I think he makes a couple other things. I think a dart. He might make a bottle or something like that. Yeah.
So if you were going to set up a bag right now for the rest of the season, let's say that you still have all your energy and you're not fished out yet, and you needed to put a bag together for somebody just swings by and says, "Hey, George, I've got infinite lures of whatever you want. Will you just fill the bag for me?" What would you be putting in that bag for him?
I'm probably just going to keep it like I've been keeping it the same pretty much every time. If I need distance and I have the conditions for top water, I'm going to throw a pencil or two in there, just because when they're on the other side of the bar, and if you know how to cast, you're going to have to be able to get it there. And it happened often this year where they just didn't want to come over the bar, and having a pencil in my bag saved the day because, I could reach it. Even with my 9-footer, I could reach it. I thought I'd blow the rod up, but I could reach it.
Right.
And once they come over the bar, that pencil's coming off most of the time, and I'll switch it up to, the metal lip first. And if the metal lip's not getting it done, maybe for some reason they're slow, they're running down deeper, and they went a little slower, then maybe you'll throw on the paddle tail or a bucktail. If it's something that they want like really slow, throw in the Yazuri twitch baits. You can almost practically not even reel this thing and just kind of twitch it, give it a crank, twitch it, and they'll hit this thing when it's not even moving.
Right.
Which this is what I've been throwing local lately. Last night, this is what I caught fish on locally. So, that's what I would say. I'd go pencil, the pencil, maybe a small metal lip. So that something that runs up higher in the water column metal lip, your Danny's, something like with the lefty lips, or even Oh, I should have brought one up, like a surfster lip, which is almost like a spoon lip.
Yeah.
That'll run up on the surface.
Now, what are you using? So that's your surf bag. Are you
Mhm.
using the same lures when you head out on the boat and you're in 35 to 40 feet of water, or are you
Yeah, that's
switching
almost.
it up?
I'm almost strictly top water out there, and
Okay.
it's mostly spooks. I like throwing spooks out there. I have a couple that I made that I throw, and if they don't want to hit the top water, usually I'll switch it up and I'll throw like big mega shads
Yeah.
with a jig head. Long, thin profile. It seems like they're out there. Down here, it doesn't seem like they're on large baits. Everything that I've seen when I've been on the boat, these fish are being really finicky, really weird, and they're almost porpoising across the surface and slurping on the surface, and it looks like they're eating rain bait, little tiny bait. So it's incredibly difficult to get them to eat. And the only way I've been getting them on spooks is, the direction that they're going. They're not going in any one particular direction. Some of them are going north, some of them are going east, some of them are going west. I'm throwing way out in front of them. And the guy that I'm with could not figure this out. I'm throwing way out in front of them and letting them come to me. And then as soon as they get to it, I'm just giving it real slow twitches, twitch. And you'll see one come up and slurp it. But you'll miss more than you'll get because they're just slurp. They're not really hammering the plug. They're not really sucking it down. And most of them are hooked on the back hook.
Right. And Ed, when you're not trolling, what are you throwing out there?
I honestly haven't done anything with troll this year.
Okay.
I'll be honest with you. This year I haven't. In the past I'll throw spooks. Last year I got on a good bite on top water spooks and poppers. So basic stuff.
I think I'm the opposite. So when I go deeper water, I tend to try to get down under the blitzing fish for the ones that are underneath. And I'm throwing out heavy jig heads with with big soft plastics that semi-match or maybe a little bit bigger than the bait fish in the area. So, you could do like a 5-inch bomber will work when they're on the real small peanuts, or a 6-inch Al Gags, which gives you a slightly thicker side profile. And then the Tsunami holographic when they're on adults. If you want to use an adult bunker.
You can't beat a paddle tail out. You can't beat a paddle. But it's amazing how you can be in 30 or 40 feet of water and these fish will come up.
Oh, they'll come up.
A top water plug. They'll just they come out of nowhere and they know it's there. They know it's on the surface. So I'm not afraid to even just blind throw in the middle of the ocean. My buddy's like, "What are you throwing to?" And I go, "Dude, you have no idea how many times I've just a blind throw and out of nowhere a 30-pounder comes up and inhales it." So I just keep going and going and going and going.
Well, and I think that's a big thing. We're talking migration bass, but you've been in the ones that everybody wants, the 30+ pounders on these top waters, even out in the boat. And, I don't know if I've had, well, I guess I have had some 30 pounders, but I've had a real wide mix of everything. I've had everything down to the 18 inchers all the way up to, close to 50 inch. I haven't gone over 50 inch. But 20, 30-pound fish, but you're getting them on the top waters on blind cast. You're saying, yeah.
It's and right away when you have something that's usually over like 35 pounds, and you start getting into that 40, 45 pounds, it right away. Right away. I can tell right away by the head shake. That's just that head shake on a 40-pound fish is so big and pronounced that it kind of shakes your whole body. It's like thump, thump. Yeah. And it's just it's that head going like this. You can just feel it, and you're losing contact, and right. They may not even fight as hard as a 20 or 25-pound fish, but by that head shake that it's a big fish.
So I did
because those 25-pounders will fight a hell of a lot harder than some of the 40, 45s or 50-pound fish.
Yeah, I actually did a video for Salt Strong last week, and it was a video about the trip on the fishmonger, and I made the comment in there that here's my best fish of the day. It was my favorite, but all of them, it was just ripping line. I mean, I was fishing 10-pound test.
They're strong out there.
Yeah. So I'm fishing 10-pound test, and it's just like bzzz, and it's just going and going and going. And they're all coming in, and they're all in the slot, right? So they're 28 to 38, almost all of them. And then I get this one, it just bends the rod and it's got these big pronounced shakes on it, but it didn't pull any line. It may have pulled 3 feet of line total.
Yeah.
And, I'm thinking, but that was the best fight out of all of it. It was just this heavy mass.
Big, heavy shake. Yeah.
It just decided it was not going to come up at all. It was just going to hold and swim back and forth at the same depth. And it was deep.
Yeah,
and
they want to go straight down out there. They want to go down. They get right under you.
Big guys do.
And that's when they can really put some pressure on your rod. You know, like the guy that I was with. He happened to. I had a brand new Century rod that I've been using, and he grabbed it, and I didn't know it. And I had a Mega Shad on there with maybe a 1 ounce jig head, and he said, "I'm on." And I'm on the bow of the boat. I turned around and saw my rod folded, and I go, "Oh, you got my rod in your hand." He said, "Yeah, I didn't have a jig on." I said, "Oh, okay, no problem." So he's fighting it, and I stopped fishing. I said, "I'll give him a hand with it." And I turned, and I see that the fish had gone under the boat. Now he's holding it up, high sticking it, and it's bent all the way around and back under the boat. Yeah. And I was like, "You're gonna break my rod." And he goes, "Oh, yeah, don't worry about it. Don't worry about it." And I'm like, "Yeah." I go, "Please stop high sticking the rod." It was a circle. It was a circle. And I got a picture of it. I put it on my page. That it's just, whoosh, but it scared me.
Oh yeah,
it went under. He'd have been better off on the other side of it. I think the fish was on the other side of the boat, and it was all the way underneath. Yeah.
So you break it, you buy it situation.
Well, I was worried about that on the Monger because when they tossed out the rods to everyone, I got one. It was a Century Weapon Mag Junior, and I'm like, "That's not my rod." And he's like, "I don't care, throw it out." I was like, "All right." And I look next to me, and there's Quad. I'm like, "This is your rod?" He's like, "Yep." I was like, "Sorry, man." And wouldn't you know, first cast, pretty much everybody on the boat hooked up, and I'm fighting this fish, and it's got a heck of a lot of bend in there, and it was a nice fish. And the one thing was, though, I definitely wasn't high sticking it. It never went deep. Yeah. But it had a lot of backbone left. Even though it didn't look like it, I could tell. Like I almost could have flipped that thing.
Sneaky power. Yeah, they have sneaky power. For that,
it was amazing. Rods. But I gave it right back to him because I didn't want to be buying that rod if something happened to it.
Yeah.
I went to my cheap rod and used that the rest of the day.
Well, speaking of rods, Andrew Sokol recently started fishing metal lips. And they found them not to be the greatest casting. So what do you recommend to cast?
You're not going to throw most of the metal lips you throw. You're not throwing them far. I'm using them when I know that there's going to be fish right in front of me, probably within 30 or 40 yards. You're not going to, there's just not many plugs, metal lips that throw further than that. Just the way the weight is. Most of these plugs, you can see where the weight is on the, most of the weight is like center of the plug here, unless you're talking the pikeys where like this big pikey is probably, I'm just guessing based on feeling that he's probably got a couple center weights here, and usually there's some chin weight in the pikey, so there's nothing back here. It was rare for most builders to put anything in the tail because it's going to affect the action of the plug. So when you're throwing them, I was throwing my 9-foot rod with I had a VR 125 and 20-pound braid with a 30-pound leader, and I'm not throwing it like I'm not throwing my arms out. When I have that on, I know that there's going to be fish close to me, and usually you can see them. Even at the end of my cast, I wasn't expecting to get hit at the end of my cast. It wasn't probably till about halfway into my retrieve that okay, I'm in the area where the fish are because they have the bait pushed into the beach, and even in the spring. It's still you're still when you're using them, you're in an area where you're throwing into close to deeper water. Like a lot of times, Raritan Bay, say, I'll throw metal lips in the Raritan at night just because I know springtime. A lot of times the fish are in. They want that warmer water that's close to shore. So that's
they're right up there.
They're right
up along the beach.
Up there. They're right on the beach. They're right on the shoreline. So you can get away with it. Sometimes you'll need distance. When they're out a little bit, you're just going to work different areas. You're going to work different parts of the water column. You're going to work close to you. Then you want to work further away. You want to work deeper and you want to work higher. You got to kind of try it all. But yeah, I mean, a 9-foot rod, even an 8-foot rod, but something that can handle the weight. These, I think this is probably maybe 2 ounces, 2.25 ounce. They're not real heavy, maybe 2.5 tops. I don't even think it's that. I think it's about 2 ounces. So
Which one of your rods are you putting that on?
I was using the 9-foot Kevlar Nor'easter.
Okay. That's a fast action, right?
That can handle, I think it's a 1/2 ounce to 2.5 ounce.
Okay.
But this is heavier. This is like maximum for that. And I'm throwing this as hard as I can with that, seeing if that, trying to see if I can blow that rod up, and that rod ain't going to blow up. I mean, if I didn't blow it up this year, it's not going to blow up because I mean, as hard as I could, I was throwing, and I said that this is probably too much weight for it, but it held.
I've heard a lot of you Century guys saying, "Go ahead, try to break it."
Yeah,
try to break it on the cast, and I'm not that guy. I don't know what it is. I just.
Well, that rod, that Kevlar Nor'easter is known for you're not going to break it.
Yeah.
There may, I would like to have had a maybe my 8-foot weapon. There were times where I could have probably used the 8-foot weapon, but I've been using that 9-footer all fall, and I may even use that a little bit in the spring next year too. I really come to like that rod. I got it specifically for jetty fishing, but I've kind of started using it on the sand. I just love the way it handles.
Yeah, well, why change? It's working.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Why change until you do blow it up?
Yeah, I don't think it's going to happen.
That's good.
Apparently, I can lift big fish like up on the jetty. Not big fish, but maybe 20-pound fish. I can lift them right up on the jetty with that rod.
Really?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Man, see, that makes me nervous.
Oh, me too.
Yeah, well, and that's also not a cheap rod, right?
No. Yeah.
Yeah. I tend to, I've said it before in other shows, I tend to use less expensive stuff because I'm in a kayak and I can lose it. And I've lost multiple setups. So I don't want to lose a weapon overboard.
No.
With the VS on it. No,
yeah.
Thanks.
No, I that's what I take the Weapon Junior and the Demon in the kayak with me. And I'm like, one of these times I'm going to make a mistake.
Yeah.
Even when I was, sheepshead fishing with my buddy in the boat, and we were under a real tight bridge. I'm setting the hook. I don't know how many times I beat the bottom of that bridge. Whack, whack, whack. And he's like, dude, how's that rod not broken yet? I don't know. He's like, you set the hook into the bridge like 4 times today.
I do that too. I've never hit a bridge that I remember, but I set it. We were talking about this last week. I set it like on one of those freshwater bass fishing.
Oh yeah.
I don't care what it's on. Yeah, it could be snapper blues. I overset that thing every darn time.
Yeah, I got a buddy that does that.
Yeah.
I laugh every time he does it too.
Yeah, I can't help it.
Mm-hmm.
Can't help it. So let's that's striped bass. I want to make sure we do talk a little bit about the Blackfish, because you have, before we came on, you said you've been trying.
Yeah.
You've been grinding on it, but you've had some really good results too.
Yeah, we've been doing pretty good. I haven't gotten out nearly as much because of this bass run, not nearly as much as I have in years past, because I've been just grinding on the bass. But yeah, I mean, we got a cheat stick. The boat that I fish on, my buddy Dave, he's got a cheat stick. So dropping the trolling motor and just bouncing from piece to piece, it really changes the way you can work anything.
Right.
I've been trying to get better with the jig, and I suck with the jig. I suck because it's feast or famine. It's either like everything's working great, but as soon as I start having problems with it, I think the one day I dropped the jig down, I think I lost 5 jigs and 5 drops, and I start talking to myself and yelling, screaming and yelling. So it's back to rigs.
Well, that's what Ed says. He's like, if you're losing them, that's okay. Just keep losing them. You're in the right spot.
I know a guy.
I have to place another order.
I know a guy, and he'll give you a good deal.
I just don't like losing stuff like that. I mean, it drives me crazy.
Listen, if you're not losing, even if you're fishing rigs, if you're not losing gear, you're not in the right spot.
Yeah,
especially for tog.
Yeah, same thing with offshore flounder fishing. If you're not losing stuff, you're not doing it right.
I mean, I've been togging 4 times so far offshore, and I've lost 1 jig.
Really?
Mm-hmm.
I lost
more
5 jigs in
rigs.
10 minutes.
Well, you were on a wreck then, instead of boulders and all
Yeah.
that stuff. You were on an actual
we were,
wreck. I mean,
yeah, we were on
sometimes reef balls you can get snagged on too.
Yeah.
It's the jig bite's definitely a nuanced bite. It's not the same as a rig bite.
Now, and I'm trying to experiment with which rod I think I'm more comfortable with out there trying to jig, because I want to use spinning gear on the jig. So I was using just a weapon, and I think that's just a little too much rod. I think I like the Weapon Junior, but from what I'm being told, that's probably not the rod that I want. It might not have, but I've gotten togged 8.5 pounds with the Weapon Junior in 90 feet of water. So I think that the Weapon Junior might be my rod to use for that.
What are you using for line and leader?
That's got 20-pound braid, and I think I was using a 40-pound leader that day.
Try going a little lighter on your leader.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, there's not much of a difference between 15 and 20-pound braid, at least out there.
Mm-hmm.
So I would try dropping a little lighter on your leader.
Yeah.
Get a little less drift on that jig, so it's not pushing it under things as often.
Try and use the lightest weight jig you can keep on the bottom.
That's what I usually do, but even then, I still feel it start to sweep a little bit, and that's when I get in trouble. I feel it bouncing around a little bit, and then maybe it gets hit, and then I don't want to set the hook. I want to wait an extra second, and by then they usually got it somewhere up and underneath. They grab it, take it up underneath, and I'm screwed.
Yeah. It's a whole different thing. I mean, it is different. It's definitely different.
Too long. I wait too long.
Yeah, it's a total different world, like jigs and rigs. Like, and I've done I've been offshore 3 times so far this year, and I've tried to switch up between the two of them to figure out the differences. The jig, you're not going to feel them. You're just going to feel light little taps. Just set the hook. On the rig, you're going to feel it move. You're going to feel them. You're going to know they're there. You'll get them big bites. On the jig, they're just going to pick it up and swim away with it.
Yeah, that's what I noticed.
Oh. Well, I'm going to try both tomorrow, so I'll let you know how it goes.
Nice.
Yeah, try it, Rich, and see what you think, because that's what I've come up with.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I typically don't fish the jigs on party boats though, because you never know where everybody's line's going to be.
Yeah.
So it depends on where I am on the boat. If I'm off the back, I'll fish a jig because I'm not going to tangle anyone. But if I'm off the side or the bow, I'm probably not going to do it, just because people are all over the place and it's a full boat tomorrow, so we'll see.
Well, the Osprey doesn't fully book out like that. I think
I should say
lighter loads than they have in the past.
Yes, I should say it's sold out. It's not packed, right? It's not like it was 3 years ago when they packed the thing and you're literally elbow to elbow snuggling with your buddy. Yeah, so I'll let you know. But I'm still looking for the striped bass, George, and I think we still have quite a while to go. I mean, you mentioned these temperatures are just way high for December.
It's crazy. I mean, like I said I'm done, but I'm not done. You know,
You're not done.
I'm not done.
No, but nobody believed you, by the way.
Yeah, not at all.
If you're gonna be still looking, you know, you gotta, this time of year you want to keep moving. If you're gonna be fish at night, you know, and nighttime's been successful, even with all these bunker blitzes and everything. The night bite has been pretty good. You know, I think I discussed last time how there was patterns. I noticed patterns sometimes at night where you have a couple of bars and a cut in the bar, and they may be on one side or the other, and they'll be the same way. And I had a night like that at Isla Beach this year where we noticed it'd be the cut, and on the right side where the bar started, there was fish there. And me and two buddies sat there and picked at them, but it kind of got tight with the three of us. So I went down to the next cut and duplicated the same thing on the next bar, where they were all sitting on this ledge of this right side. They had a cut and two bars, and they were sitting on that right bar right there, and you know, sat there and picked the fish, and they went like onto the bar. They were on the bar. So we just worked our way up and down the beach doing that.
I love that. You know, I think a lot of times we tend to give fish way too much credit for being smart. They're not.
Yeah. No.
And that just proves that they're not doing their own little thing for the most part. They're all going to behave in a consistent fashion within a region.
And it seems like they've been schooled up. It's just completely feast or famine almost this year, where you can be 2 blocks away from a blitz and not be getting a thing, you know? And I witnessed that several times this year, where it's like, all right, I'm standing here, it's okay. And then walk a quarter mile down the beach and it's chaos. You know, it's like, what is going on here? Why are they?
And it
not
doesn't
down?
move.
No. Or they're just going in and out in that one spot. Maybe it's the cut. Maybe it's the way the bar is. Maybe it's the way the bait's sitting. Could be a number of things, but you have to be. I did a lot of driving and a lot of walking this year. I lost at least 2 pounds this year, so it's been a lot of walking.
Sounds like I got to get out there. How far do you think you walk in the average day when you're out on the?
My
on
buddy
the water?
and my one buddy, he kept track on his phone the one day. We walked 12,000 steps one day.
That's a lot.
I don't know how far that is. I have no idea. But in the sand, it's a lot.
Probably 4 or 5 miles.
Yeah,
probably about that.
yeah.
But
We
yeah,
walked 12,000 steps one day.
To your point, in the sand, that's even more of a workout.
It's horrible. It's horrible.
That's brutal.
Yeah, with all the gear, the waders, the top, the belt, everything on. And he's like Carl Lewis in the sand. I can't keep up with him. No,
That's where you just pretend you're studying the waves and go.
I just stop. I just give up. I just go. I'm going to let him go. I'll catch up to him in a little bit.
Yeah.
I don't even try to keep up.
I wouldn't either.
Mhm.
Ed, do you have any last questions before we?
No, I think we hit everything. Everything that was in the chat, at least.
If it's going to be sand deals, you're going to be switching over. You're going to switch over to longer, thinner profile things, teasers, metal, your Ava jigs and everything. And I think that it's a good possibility that's what is going to happen. This is going to morph into a sand deal bite if there's sand deals around.
So yeah, so let me ask you about this because you are one of the people that I consider a real surf caster. Do you use Avas?
Yeah, I'll use whatever works. I don't care what it is.
Right. You have this big contingent that like to make fun of it.
No,
but they just work.
Yeah, no.
When there's a sand eel bite, they work.
Yeah, no, I'm not. I'm going to use whatever. If I'm there to catch fish, I'm not there to look good or try to do anything. I'm not there to do anything other than catch fish and maybe have some fun with some friends. So yeah, I'll pack some. Tell me, is it a red tube bite or green tube bite? I don't care. I'm putting it on.
Yeah. Okay. I do the same thing.
Mm-hmm.
But you see it a lot on social media where people are making fun of the guys that are casting an Ava and they have a teaser and all that stuff. They talk about having 12 teasers.
It's not as simple as, throwing an Ava jig and just reeling it in. Sometimes there's a trick to it too. Sometimes distance does matter and an Ava jig is going to get you distance, so it's, I enjoyed the good sand eel bites way before all these peanut bunker blitzes, because it was a real good night bite and you could get away and use like the super strike needles at night or the SPs or black bombers at night and have tons of fish all night long without the crowds. But I'm still having fun. I'm seeing a lot of guys that I know and having a lot of fun during the day. But yeah, the sand eel bite was much better. The 2011 bite was just, that was fantastic. I followed that straight through into December into LBI. I mean, then the whole thing moved into the forbidden zone of like the shallower water of LBI and further south. It was great.
Well, I think we're going to be in for a prolonged season. I think that we're going to see fish out front and reachable from shore well into January this year. I think it's going to be awesome. And God, it's already been been ridiculous. It's
been amazing. I mean, some of the blitzes I've seen have been amazing. I think I've been a part of 3 or 4 of them that I'm like, it can't get any better than this. And then, the next week I'm like, it got better than this. It got better, so, and I thought I had seen it all, like the Montauk blitzes from years ago, but it rivaled that, a couple of the blitzes I saw, because it was literally miles of breaking fish this year, miles. And it was just, and didn't move. It was amazing. And it's not all like cookie cutter fish. There's genuinely 30, 40 pound fish mixed in with that.
Yes. Oh yeah. We were pulling in, 25 inchers along with, over slots, so 40 inchers. I think there were some that were over 40. Yeah. Everyone's hooked up at the same time, and all those variety of sizes are coming.
You never knew. Yeah. You didn't know.
Never know.
And like a box of chocolates.
Exactly. And these fish are now down in the Chesapeake. So I'm seeing people in Maryland picking up 50 pounders in the Chesapeake right now. Yeah. And they're moving south. So all of you that are in Maryland, if you're not out there, you should be, because there are pictures of 50-pounders being pulled in there. So
I'm
I
seeing
didn't get to
some of
see
the
any.
boats of the Potomac is like loaded with like cookie cutter fish, the smaller fish, with lots and lots of them, which I haven't heard anything good like that in a while about the Potomac.
Yeah, the Potomac and the Rappahannock are both
Mhm.
giving up pretty nice fish right now. And what is it, Cape Charles? They're starting to pick up some nicer ones. So
Looks promising. Yeah,
it does look promising down there. I'm thinking I might need to get down there once it gets a little too cold, once it gets shut down in the backwaters up here. Yeah, don't worry, I will. I'll give you a buzz. I'll give you a buzz. The Fishing Channel, they're in Maryland, so they're probably out there enjoying it right now. He says, here, let me put this comment up here. I love this. It's a bite later each year for your region. We're noticing Rocktober is now Rocksember.
Oh yeah, yeah.
It is. And remember when it
Absolutely.
used to start before Halloween?
Oh yeah,
and be over
Yeah.
before by right after Halloween.
yeah. I mean, maybe around Thanksgiving, you'd be kind of wrapping up. It'd be like,
Yeah.
oh, it's getting cold now. Now it starts down. South Jersey starts in Thanksgiving. I mean, it was nice that it started pretty early. It caught me off guard that it started so early up north this year.
It was Ian that storm when Ian came through.
Yeah,
For some
yeah.
reason, it just kicked it off. Literally
Yep.
the next day.
Yeah,
That
yeah.
was
I mean, I
bananas.
think there was a big tournament up there, right? And there was a big tournament. I think Nick Hanachevsky runs the Silver
Yeah.
Underground, and I was watching the leaderboard, and I saw like 50 released fish that were over slot, and I went, something's. You don't just have 50 released fish,
No.
over slot. Something's going on, So it's like, ooh, make some phone calls. Time to run. Time to go.
Yep.
And that was
And now we all know what was going on.
Yeah, yeah,
Absolute mayhem and just great fishing.
yeah.
Things that Bob the Garbage Man he's going to be putting in his log of best blitzes.
Wissahickon Avenue. Yeah.
Yep.
Were you there? You were there, weren't you?
You probably were. I keep waiting for him to say your name.
I do look at the Wissahickon side all the time, and it's a Wissahickon Blitz of '87. Yeah.
Yep. All right. Well, we're gonna wrap it up here. George, thank you very much for coming on.
Yep.
Great update, and I think it's great that you shared a lot of information about how you're getting on them. But
Lots
it seems
of
like
nuggets tonight.
yeah, and I think the three of us agree it's not over unless you
No.
want it to be over.
Yeah, yeah. I want it to be. No.
Yeah. You say that, but we know you don't.
No, I know. I just need a little break.
Yeah, that's totally understandable. Everybody watching the live stream, thank you for tuning in. Thank you for watching the replay podcast. This is going to come out 2 weeks after the live stream, so not all of this is going to apply to you. However, the next podcast that will come out after this one and the next live stream is going to be another Ask the Coaches. So we're going to have on Salt Strong coaches from different regions. I'll be on. I know Wyatt Parcell will be on. Matt and the Yak is going to be back on, so we'll be talking some Florida Panhandle, anything that you have questions on, and maybe some others will be jumping in as well. But we're going to do that next week. Ed's going to have off, and then the following week we're both going to have off for the day after Christmas, and then we'll figure out what's coming up after that. But we have a lot of things that we're going to be getting to in January to help everybody get through the kind of the downtime. Because a lot of the charter boats come out of the water. A lot of the party boats start to wrap it up. Striped bass is closed in the back, which means really there's not much in the back to go for unless you're going for perch, which I think, Ed, you and I are going to be switching to perch at that time.
Mhm.
So that's what's coming up. But thank you, everybody, for tuning in tonight. We'll be back on Monday. George, thanks again.
Thanks for having me, guys.
And
Thanks for
everybody, get out there, get on the water, and get some tight lines.